Just before we actually begin the presentation, I just wanted to remind everyone that last week, the 5 November 2009, was International Project Management Day, and International Project Management Day is celebrated every year on the first Thursday of the month of November, and next year it will be 4 November 2010, and the intention of International Project Management Day is to recognize project managers and project teams for the work that they do and the contributions that they make to basically to the number of many of the things that we take for granted around the world in our personal life and our professional life, buildings and highways and dams and so on, and IT projects and so on. So the important thing here is that we take a minute and just recognize the contributions and the value that project managers and project teams add to our organizations and to our very own lifestyles. As we begin, the slide here says initiating leadership, and there's a quote that says design usually starts with there is no way, and then the project manager says, okay, how can we make this work? And the idea here is that project managers need to basically display a positive attitude amongst their team members, their sponsors, their stakeholders, their customers, everyone that's involved. And sometimes we have very, very challenging work to do, and we do require a strong leader to stand up and basically set up the environment in which to work and create a very, very positive environment for our project team members. One of the things I was thinking about this morning was there is a famous American management consultant and trainer and author by the name of Tom Peters, and he spoke a lot about projects, and he used this term, the WOW project. He actually wrote a book called In Search of WOW, and he says all projects can be WOW projects, and that means that they're very impressive, and what it takes is strong leadership and motivation to basically get the team to stand behind the project manager and really look at whatever project you're working on, regardless of size, whether it's a small project of only a few $1,000s in budget or a few $1 million in budget. Every project can be a WOW project that starts with enthusiasm and motivation. Leadership actually begins with motivation, so you have to ask yourself a question, and think about this. What motivates you? You might be an employee of an organization, you might be leading a department or a division, but what motivates you? Just think about that for a second. What motivates you as an employee that helps you to keep moving forward? Now, studies show that what motivates most people are a challenging job, achievement of goals and objectives, increasing responsibility, growth and advancement, enjoyment of the work, and earned recognition. And each one of these is important. They may not be in any particular order. One of the things that I think is very important for you as a leader, besides providing people with challenging work, is that you need to basically show that you enjoy the work, but the last item on the list, earned recognition, is extremely important for you as a leader to show recognition and acknowledgement of the people that are on your project team for the work they do. Most of the people, at least in the organizations that I've worked in, basically work many, many long hours on their projects, and just a brief thank you, a brief acknowledgement is very important in keeping them motivated to move forward. So keep that in mind as you go forward. One of my key points in this whole presentation is that it's important to recognize the excellent work of project team members and to recognize frequently. Now, as far as top requirements in the work environment, there are a number of things that we need to think about. You'll see what's on the top of the list: appreciation for work well done, the possibility of a promotion, receiving information about the organization, keeping communication active and lively and interesting. Of course, job security, especially in this economy, that's a very, very important part of the work environment. Certainly, the item here, help with personal problems. Now, we're not suggesting here that the project manager should be a psychiatrist or a psychologist or be an expert in dealing with personal problems, but it's important for people that are working for you in your capacity as a leader to understand that you would be there to help them out, to give them a hand, to work with them, maybe mentor them a little bit, and provide them with direction to help them solve some problems so that they can be more active and more productive as a team member. And of course, there's good wages, interesting work, the loyalty of management, which is critical. I think it's extremely important for you as a leader of a project team to not only do the job that needs to be done, the completing the project objectives and so on, but to protect and show loyalty to your project team members and your workers. Of course, there'll be times when you have to provide some type of criticism or even discipline, and it's also very, very important for anyone to make sure that that discipline is very tactful and respectful at all times. And of course, the bottom line to all of this, the most important part, is for you to provide what is known as a positive and supportive atmosphere. Very important. One of the things that you might want to look into is something called the PNR, the positive to negative ratio. And the issue with positive to negative ratio is that the leader establishes an atmosphere within the project team of what would be referred to as 8 to 2 on that ratio. 8 positive incidents to every 2 negatives. And what you have here is a balance. It sounds a little lopsided, but a balance between positive and negative that for the most part, your employees, your team members would believe that as they come into work each day, that for the most part, they will have a positive and productive day. There may be some negatives in there, but the strong leader can actually manage these negatives in these conflict areas to turn them into positive situations and learning experiences. The 3 top motivators from the study actually indicate that people want interesting work, and that is really in part of the responsibility of the project manager as the leader. Number 2, appreciation for work well done. And I'm not talking about the work that they're expected to do. I'm talking about getting good work done on a consistent, regular basis and having someone show appreciation for that work. The last one, the feeling in about things, is really about communication. People like to know what is going on. They like to know the good news as well as the bad news. They like to have honest information up front so that there aren't any surprises and that they feel connected to the organization. So it's very important in terms of these top 3 motivators. Now, one of the things that I profess when it comes to project leadership is to develop a passion for helping others. And basically, it says here, take ownership for who we are. And this item, leadership is like gravity. You can't see it, but it does exist. And what we really want to do is we want to make sure that people understand that you understand leadership, that you can work with it, and through it you can accomplish amazing things. But if we're not aware of it, if we try to ignore it, if we try to even fight against it, then major problems can develop. So again, my emphasis from a project management perspective is that you are a leader, you are in a leadership position, and that you must actually feel and behave and demonstrate leadership throughout the assignment. Now the question, what exactly is leadership? And this is where people sometimes get a little bit confused. We have to think about the definition of leadership as opposed to the definition of a leader or the characteristics of a leader. Now, I have a list of some items here, assumptions and misconceptions about leadership. Impressive titles, leading and managing are the same, and certainly they are not the same. We do need leaders, we do need managers, and as a project manager, you have to balance this role between being a leader and a manager. Just because you have great ideas does not necessarily make you a leader, or because you have a very, very high IQ, or that the person standing in front of a crowd is necessarily a leader. Leadership is also not based on position. You do not have to be the vice president or CEO of an organization to be a leader. I highly recommend that project managers spend some time looking at the writings of John C. Maxwell. And one of the books that he has written that's made an impression on me is the book entitled the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And I think it's important for project managers to understand that leadership goes well beyond titles and whether or not you're an intelligent person or you have a certain position in a company. So we have to take a look at things in a much more detail to really understand what leadership is. This particular picture is actually from a book that I had put together called Project Leadership with a View. And it's a great quote, and it's, leadership is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. And I think that this says an awful lot about project managers in general, that you have to mobilize people and you want them to focus on the same things and share in the same goals and objectives of the project. So it's very important that we take a look at leadership and understand what leadership really is. Now, I was a student in the PMI Leadership Master's class, the Leadership Institute Master's class, and one of our questions that we had a discussion about was, what is leadership? And one of the people in the class decided to ask her 5-year-old son that question, and this is what his response was. Leadership is like follow the leader. You follow someone until they do something really stupid, and then you follow someone else. And I get a lot of response to that particular quote. A lot of people kind of chuckle at it, laugh at it, but then they say, wow, out of the mouth of babes. And you know, I believe this 5-year-old was onto something. So think about that. Just because someone is leading a group does not necessarily make them a leader, and eventually they might do something that you're going to disagree with, and you'll turn to someone else. Leadership, according to the PMBOK guide, leadership is establishing direction, aligning people, motivating, and inspiring. And I think that the biggest issue here, the biggest area, the most important part of leadership is the ability to motivate and inspire people, energize, and help people to overcome barriers to change. One of the things that you might want to do, if you have an opportunity, you can do a search on the internet and search for the WOW Project. And I mentioned this earlier by Tom Peters, but if you search for the WOW Project, you will actually see a number of websites. They'll begin with the Tom Peters website. And his idea is that any project can be a WOW project. It starts with the leader. And it is you, as the project leader, that create the environment that will inspire people to want to move forward. He also says in his search for WOW that we should stop doing less than excellent work. We should be, as project managers, known for doing excellent work, and therefore you need to inspire people by taking on that goal of that your work will always be excellent. I don't think anyone wants to be looked at as a person that does okay work or mediocre work. So let's focus on doing excellent work and energize people to overcome all those barriers that we might see each day as we lead our projects. Now, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, is a quote actually by James P. Lewis. And another quote comes from Colin Powell, a very famous general and statesman in the United States. You will have achieved excellence as a leader when people will follow you everywhere, if only out of curiosity. And that's a very, very powerful statement. People actually like leaders who are innovative, they're creative, they're going to do some things that are a little bit different, they're going to do things that are a little unexpected, and that's where leadership comes from. People that are creating things, new things, and creating excitement in their environment. Now, a question, and this is another item that you need to think about yourself, is what are the core competencies of a leader? Now, you'll notice that in this presentation, I'm not making any particular reference to any political figures or anything like that, any well-known people, except for some quotes. But the question is that you have to decide what you believe to be the core competencies